WFLA Now. Feel good and live your best life with Bloom Health Club. Here's Gail Guayardo.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited today about our guest. He is a peak performance expert and now the newest member of the Hall of Fame for speakers, Dr. Delatorro McNeal, who's the author of Shift into a Higher Gear, Better Your Best, and Live Life to the Fullest. Welcome, my friends.
Yay, what's up, Gail?
And congratulations. What a coup it is. You are a Hall of Fame speaker.
Yay. I'm so excited about it. It's a big, big deal. You know, the National Speakers Association created the Hall of Fame in 1997 to honor the best and the brightest speakers in the entire world. And so there's less than 300 members of the Hall of Fame all around the world. There's only 90 living members of the Hall of Fame. And there's actually 9 African-American members of the Hall of Fame, and I'm one of the 9 on planet Earth.
That is incredible.
Isn't that pretty cool?
Yeah, it's incredible. And Dr. Delatorro, I want to introduce you to our digital reporter and producer for BloomTampaBay.com, Brody Waddell. He's going to be jumping in.
Brody, yes, sirree. Woo, woo.
Right.
Appreciate you, Brody. You do great work, man.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, friend.
So yeah, this is really exciting because you speak to people all over the world about exactly what your book says, how to shift into a higher gear.
Yeah.
And, you know, so many of us, we wake up in life and you look back over it and you think, did I really reach my fullest potential? Did I live the life I was supposed to live?
Yeah.
And you make sure people kind of grab life by the horns.
Yeah. So one of my mentors is a gentleman by the name of Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, and he's the leader of the spiritual campus, the Agape Center in Los Angeles. He was also in The Secret, the movie The Secret. One of the things that he says that's really transformational, it changed my life so many years ago. He said, we can live 100 years or we can live 1 year 100 times.
Wow.
Say it again. We can live 100 years or we can live 1 year 100 times. And it speaks to what you just said. Most people, Gail, live life stuck. They're stuck in the same cycle of pathology, same friend group, same income, same habits, same mindset, same behavior. So they live 1 year 100 times. And then you have other people who live 100 unique, amazing, powerful years. And that's the reason why I created this book, because I want people to live life to the fullest. You know, Gail, this is blow your mind, right? Do you know that the United Nations, so my doctorate is, I received an honorary doctorate for my 20-year body of work in the professional development industry. And I'm an envoy ambassador to the United Nations. And so I've done a lot of work with them. The international life expectancy of the average human being is 72.6 years young. The global international life expectancy is 72.6. So if you take 72.6 minus your age right now, that tells you, my friend, how many summers you got left.
Wow. Wow. That does put it into perspective.
It puts it into perspective. And it's like, okay, cool. If I got 30 summers left based upon that example, if I got 25 summers left, if I got 50 summers, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do with these years that I've been blessed with? You know that you stand a better chance of being struck by lightning, Gail, than actually being born?
What?
Statistically. You stand a better chance of being struck by lightning than actually being born. So the sperm that made you, people spend so much time in their life trying to win the race that they already won. Just to be born, you won. You won already. Now it's, you know what I'm saying, Brody? It's how do we live the life that we were given to the fullest?
Right.
And so many of us don't live it to the fullest. We're stuck.
We're stuck
in that loop.
and it is. It's like a rat on a wheel.
Right.
And what I love about you, because I think people embrace your messaging, is because you don't talk about changing. You talk about shifting.
Yeah.
And the analogy is, and I full disclosure, I've never really ridden a motorcycle. I maybe have been on the back of one, but I've never actually taken on the handles. But you kind of say that's how life is and changes.
Yeah. So I ask people all over the world, I say, how many of you guys have ever seen somebody on a motorcycle and look really cool? Every hand goes up. I say, how many of you guys think that would be cool and one day you'd like to maybe ride? Every hand goes up. How many of you all have actually ridden? 95% of the hands go down. I say, well, why don't you ride? The number one answer I hear all around the world is, I'm afraid. So if the only reason why you don't ride is because you're afraid, then the truth is we're not living our dreams. We're really living out our fears.
Right.
So for me, the motorcycle is just a metaphor for things that we fear in life and business that we really don't have a need to fear. So how can we embrace? So what I did to get over my fear, or I didn't have a fear of motorcycle riding, but I went to a class. I went to a motorcycle school, took the class. It was amazing. And then I said, you know what? This is awesome, but I work hard as an entrepreneur. I don't want to do all the gear shifting manually with my foot. So I bought an automatic motorcycle. So my motorcycle is amazing. I have a Honda Goldwing. It's amazing. I can go from here to California back and without breaking a sweat. It's a touring bike, but it does all the shifting internally, which is kind of neat, right?
Yes, I like that.
But if we think about it, like in life and business, Gail, right? The purpose of a shift is to help us go further, faster, with less effort, and what I love to say is with more vacations. And what I mean by that is this. If we want to go 90 miles an hour in our marriage or in our parenting or in our physical body, our vitality, our nutrition, right? Our friend group, right? Our real estate portfolio, our retirement account, any area in our lives where we want to go further, faster. If you look on the dial on a motorcycle or even on an automobile, when you go faster, you increase what's called your RPMs, your rotations per minute. So the reason why you can't go to 90 miles an hour in first gear is because the rotations per minute will not allow you to do it. So you have to shift so that way the engine is working less hard to help you go at a faster speed. So here's the thing. If you just learn to make small shifts that'll make a big difference, life will automatically open up more doors for you.
I love that. Isn't that a profound way to look at things? I love that. And I think it's really cool, a statistic that you and I, because we're so blessed, Dr. Delatorro joins us on Bloom, which is our global syndicated talk show. So we're super excited to have him in the Bloom Health Club. But you talked to me about a really interesting statistic about the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And that handful of people can either make or break your life.
Absolutely. So the U.S. Census did a study, and they determined that we will earn within 10 to 15 grand of our 5 closest friends. So if you take your 5 closest friends and you kind of look at the average income that they make, more than likely, you are earning somewhere in the vicinity of what your friends earn. Why? Because birds of a feather flock together. So I like to use a restaurant metaphor to kind of explain it. You know, there's nothing wrong with Applebee's, right? If you have Applebee's friends, there's certain conversations that happen at Applebee's. There's a different level of conversation that happens at Cheesecake Factory, right?
Yeah.
There's a different level of conversation that happens at Ruth Chris, different level of conversation that happens at Burns, right? So at the end of the day, it's based upon what we're exposed to. See, if all I've ever known my whole life was Western Sizzler, I think that's the best steak out there if that's all I've been exposed to. But it takes exposure to something better to help me realize that there's more out there. That's why you will earn within 5 to 10 grand of your 5 closest friends, because 9 times out of 10, what your friends are exposed to is what you're exposed to. So if you want to shift your income, shift your 5 closest friends.
That's amazing.
Denzel Washington said, if you hang around 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. But if you hang around 5 idiots, you'll be the 6th.
Yeah. That checks out.
I love it. And the other thing that you talk to people about, and when I say this man travels around the world, you know, with talking to tens of thousands of people, and you say that showing up is the biggest thing that you can do in life. And every day is not the perfect day. I mean, we all have problems. We have life issues. We have things that going on. So you have your own alter ego and your own spirit animal.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love talking about this stuff. Oh my gosh, this is great. So this is going to be gangster. Just y'all tune in. Get ready. This is powerful. Right? So watch this. I firmly believe that every one of us needs to have a superhero and a super shero that we tap into when we ourselves don't feel like being our best, right? And so my spirit animal is a lion, right? And one of the things that I love, this is going to blow your mind. I talk about it in chapter 10 of my book, Shifting to a Higher Gear. One of the things that blows my mind about the lion is that, do you know that the lion all around the world is considered the king of the jungle? But the truth is, Brody, the lion actually has a lot of disqualifying attributes about itself that don't qualify it to be the king of the jungle. And when I ask audiences all over the world, I speak to a lot of corporations and associations, and I say, how many of y'all have ever doubted yourself? Hands go up everywhere. Every hand goes up. How many of y'all have limiting beliefs about yourself? How many of y'all have ever felt like you're not good enough? Every hand goes up. I said, well, guess what? You're in great company, because the lion is the same. If you think about it, the lion's the king of the jungle, Gail, but the lion is not the fastest animal in the jungle. The cheetah is a whole lot faster. The lion is the king of the jungle, and the lion is not the biggest animal in the jungle. The elephant is a whole lot bigger. The lion is not the heaviest animal in the jungle. The hippopotamus is a whole lot heavier. The lion is not the smartest animal in the jungle. The monkey is a whole lot smarter. He's not even the tallest animal in the jungle. The giraffe has got him on that one. He's not the most agile animal in the jungle. The snake has got him on that one. So he's not the fastest. He's not the biggest, not the heaviest, not the tallest, but he's the king of the jungle for one reason. The lion looks at all those other animals as lunch. That lion says, when I take you down, I feed my family for a week. The reason why the lion is the king of the jungle is because he believes that he is. And when we have a lion mentality about our lives and we realize, listen, I might not have the biggest social media following. I might not have the biggest email database. I might not have been born by two parents and got a trust fund. I might not have gotten the most amount of money during the PPP, during the recession. I might have these clear-cut disadvantages. But the biggest thing that the lion's got going for himself is his roar. And when the lion roars, you can hear his roar for 5 miles away. And his roar paralyzes its prey. So every one of us have to tap into our inner voice. And when you let your inner voice out, in spite of your limitations, you get to be the king of the jungle.
I love that.
Isn't that powerful?
I love that. I have a million questions for Dr. Delatorro, but Brody, step in here, my friend. Tap into this man's wisdom.
Right. I wish I knew. You talk about shifts. How do people identify like what parts of their areas in their life they need to make shifts on?
So the number one question I love to ask is, where do you feel stuck? Mm-hmm. If there's an area where you feel stuck, it's time to make a shift. If there's an area where you feel like you're underperforming, it's time to make a shift. If there's an area in your life where you feel like you've just kind of plateaued, it's time to make a shift. Also, if there's an area in your life where you feel like you're putting in a ton of effort, but you're not getting the result you want, it's time to make a shift. Think about it, that stick shift car, right? Yeah. You're in first gear and you're like trying to get the car to go faster and you're learning how to drive stick and you get all that and the clutch and the gas isn't working quite correctly,
and things
right?
start grinding.
You're like, right. Grind is a sign of inappropriate transition between gears. See, we're taught, go out there and grind for your dream. Just grind for it, get no sleep, wake up at 3, go to bed at 2 a.m. to make the dream happen. Nothing that God created grinds. If you think about it, nothing that God created grinds. Does a bird grind to fly?
No.
Does a fish grind to swim? Nothing. Grass doesn't struggle to grow. The sun doesn't struggle to shine. The moon doesn't struggle to shine. Nothing God created grinds. It flows. So if you feel, Brody, and anybody who's listening and watching, if you feel like there's an area in your life where you feel like you're putting in all this grinding effort to try to produce an outcome, it's time to make a shift. All it means is that you need to shift into a higher gear so that you can go further, faster with less effort. When you shift to second gear instead of first, you're going faster and you're putting less wear and tear on the transmission and the engine. When you go to third, fourth, and fifth gear, you're going fast without killing the engine. And some people, I believe, are out there literally killing themselves to try to generate the income that they're generating, killing themselves to try to raise their kids, killing them. You ain't got, all you got to do is make some small shifts. And there's small shifts that you can make that will make a big difference. If you think about it, Gail, big doors swing on little hinges. Billion dollar corporations merge with 6 people in a boardroom, right? Big trucks roll on small tires. It's the small things that really make the big difference in life and business.
But I want to get back to the grind because I think, I want to play off that word because I think so many of us get stuck in the grind that we can't find the time, the energy, or even the mental capacity to make the shift and to do better. I mean, you get caught up in whatever the grind is. Maybe it's the corporate grind,
like the entrepreneurial grind.
Right.
Yeah. It could be corporate, it could be entrepreneurial, it could be the marital grind, it could be the relationship grind. At anything that we do in life and business, at the end of the day, after a while, it could be a grind. Going to the gym, doing the same workouts all the time, right? Anything can become a grind if we allow it to become monotonous, mundane, ordinary, casual, lax, laissez-faire, nonchalant. Anything can become a grind. It could just, getting up every day just going to work, or getting up every day raising children as parents, it can become a grind. So you have to find ways to take what I like to call personal sabbaticals. It's so important that we pull away from the norm so that we can recenter, reestablish ourselves. That's why I firmly believe in the importance of going to seminars, going to retreats, taking vacations, taking staycations, doing personal sabbaticals so you can step back and really assess what's going on, because it's hard to evaluate the game when you're playing it.
Ooh, I like that.
Watch this. I'm going to say it again. It's hard to evaluate the game when you're playing it. Think about it. In any pro sports team, right? The team is on the field playing the game, but who's actually assessing the game?
Right.
The coach on the sidelines and the coaches that are in the skybox. You have to be able to pull away from the game to look back at it to be able to assess the game. So I think it's so important in life and business that we take time to step away from the life that we're leading to learn how to lead the life that we're leading better. So I do events. I've got something called the Shift Summit coming up. It's a 2-day seminar here in Tampa that I'm doing all about this book and the concepts in the book. And that's an opportunity where people can come for a 2-day retreat with me, and we're going to work through the concepts in this book to help people to shift into a higher gear. So people can learn more about it by going to shiftsummitlive.com. But events like that, going to, like, I've gone to Tony Robbins events, I've gone to retreats, healing retreats, I've gone to breath work retreats, I've gone to meditation retreats. I think taking time away from your normal daily grind to really reevaluate and reassess is the key to not only shifting, but once you shift into that higher gear, staying in that new place.
But how do you, Dr. Delatorro, how do you convince people to find their worth? Because a lot of people don't even think they're worthy enough for the greatness.
Right. So the short answer to that is you have to get what's called, we call this in psychology threshold, but it's being sick and tired of being sick and tired. People tend to change for one of two reasons: because of necessity or because of internal desire. So sometimes internally we have the fortitude, the grit, the clarity, the wherewithal to say, listen, it's time to make a pivot. Other times it takes being put your back up against the wall and you got to fight your way out. Does that make sense? So sometimes I love to use this example. You know, when the mother eagle knows that her babies are ready to fly, she puts thorny branches in the nest to make the nest uncomfortable. Isn't that powerful?
That's a good one.
And sometimes in life and business, all these thorns show up in our life, in our business, in our marriage, in our relationships, in our parenting, in our kids, whatever, financially, thorns show up. And we're like, why am I experiencing a thorn right now? It's because the mother eagle knows that you're ready to fly, knows that you're ready for something different, right? And so the cool thing is, if those baby eaglets don't get the message from the thorniness of the nest, that mother eagle will take that baby eagle by the claw, take it to the nearest cliff and drop it. And that baby eagle does the only thing it knows how to do, which is what? Flap its wings. And in flapping its wings, it learns how to fly.
That's beautiful.
So we have two choices in life. Either we can say, I'm tired of this income level. It's time for me and my family to enjoy a higher income level. And you can either make that proactive decision, or you can react to getting laid off and get forced into coming up with a different income level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Or because most people work jobs, JOBs, just over brokes, to earn income that their expenses have already outgrown. I'm gonna say that again. Most people work JOBs, just over brokes, to earn income that their expenses have already outgrown. So for most people, they have more month at the end of their money, Gail.
Man. It's so true. It's so true. And that's why people are like, I can't get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you told me on this show to be candid. So I'm trying to be candid.
Yes, right? I love it.
Right. So if that's the reality, we got to shift out of that, because that is what puts your back up against the wall. It's stuff like that that makes you say, I'm tired of life like this. I deserve more for myself. So for the person who's listening and watching and saying, listen, you know, Dr. Delatorro, I hear what you're saying. It makes sense. You've got to get to that place within yourself where you say, I'm sick and tired of this. I deserve more. I deserve better. And I'm going to expect more from myself. See, Gail, I firmly believe this. Most people prefer known hell rather than unknown heaven.
So true. It is so true.
We prefer known hell because at least, in other words, we stay in bad relationships longer than we should because at least I know this person. But even though that person treats me bad, at least I know it. I have some level of assurance and confidence around that which I know. And because the unknown tends to be fearful for most people, I'd rather stick with the demon I know than the angel that I don't know, unfortunately. And that happens with jobs. It happens with relationships. It happens with mindsets. We could do this all day long. Does that make sense? So we have to be willing to shift out of what we don't want to get into what we desire. But you got to believe enough in yourself, and you got to be around people who believe in you. And that's so I want to speak to something you asked earlier, which was, you said, Dr. Delatorro, how does someone shift out when they don't feel like they're worthy? It's hard to see the picture when you're the frame. Think about it. If I was to ask that TV frame right there what's on the screen, the frame can't tell me because it's encasing the screen. It takes me, who's 5 feet looking back at it, to say, oh, there's the Bloom logo, right? So you can't appreciate art if you're the frame that the Picasso is in, right? So it takes someone looking back at it and say, man, that's a Picasso, right? I was just at the Dolly 2 weeks ago. I'm like, man, this stuff's amazing what this dude's done, right? But you have to look back from a distance at it to appreciate it. And the further back I go to painting with a twist a lot, well, I'll take my daughters and stuff like that. And one of the things that they tell you when you're doing painting with a twist is once you paint for a few minutes, they say, step back from the painting and look at it. Just step back about 5 or 6 feet and you'll see it differently, because when you're right up on it, right, you're like painting you can't appreciate the work that you've done. So you think it looks ugly because you're right up on it. You're like, oh, this doesn't look like what the teacher did. And then the teacher says, stand up, go back 5 feet and look back at it. And you're like, wow, it looks a lot better, right? So sometimes, Gail, what it takes is a mentor and a coach who's not us, to see within us what we don't see and to call that forth. So I believe it's so important that we understand an old adage: when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? So when positive, powerful people show up in your life, what message are they sending you? They're probably sending you a message that it's time to shift into that higher gear so that you can connect. That's how I got into this industry.
That was going to be my next question. How did you do this? How did you put yourself on such an incredible trajectory? Because you said it earlier on, Bloom, you and I have known each other for 2 decades, and every time I rear my head, you're at the next level. It's true.
And I'm a Tampa native, so I'm a product of this town. But to be very honest with you, Gail, since we're being transparent, 95% of my revenue is not generated in Tampa. 95% of my revenue is generated across the country and around the world. Because sometimes, like when you're from a place, people don't really take you as seriously enough. So you have to kind of blow up on the national scene first. So I live here, but at the end of the day, the majority of that work that I do is all around the world. And so for me, I got started in this industry because people believed in me. Even from a kid, when I was in the 6th grade, I went to Progress Village right here in Tampa. And my first teacher, her name was Miss Diane Williams. And she looked at me on the first day of class in the 6th grade and she said, you're not a youth at risk, you're a youth at promise. And she said, I'm not just going to teach you this year, I'm going to mentor you this year. So in the 6th grade, when I was in a class full of all academically challenged kids, and I could have accepted that label, right, that said that I'm not going to amount to much of anything, it took a teacher. It took someone who was 6 feet away from me looking back at me to see my potential.
Isn't that beautiful?
Isn't that powerful? And that story is so powerful. That's Joel Osteen has told my story in 2 separate messages.
Really?
That he has shared over. I mean, these messages.
I've heard this message.
Yeah.
And he was talking about you?
Yes, he was talking about me. There's 2 different messages. One is called Barrier Breaker. The other one's called Tell Them What They Can Become. And he tells the story of the 6th grade teacher who spoke into a young man's life, and then he became a national figure speaking and helping other people believe in themselves. So he was talking about me. And I was actually on the front row at Lakewood Church the second time he told my story. I was actually there in person.
That is
sick,
so
bro?
cool. I listened to him as his books. I read his books, and I saw him when he was here in the Tampa Bay area.
I was there too. I was at that event.
Yeah, that was incredible. I met him at Barnes and Noble. I got to interview him, and so I remember that story, and that story really resonated with me. And it just goes to show how people can come into your life and make a big difference if you let them.
Exactly, and the more we are committed to embracing how positive people see us, that's the key, right? It's because guess what? If you listen to what negative people say about you and you internalize that, you're going to play small. But the moment that you embrace what positive people say about you, it's a game changer. I said this on the Today Show, and I think it's so powerful. A negative times a negative is a positive, Gail. In math, a negative times a negative is always a positive. If a negative person tells you what you can't do, you better go for it. If a negative person tells you you're ugly, you're probably beautiful. If a negative person says you're not a great parent, you're probably an amazing leader in your family. If a negative person says you're never going to be anything, you're probably going to be a star. A negative times a negative is always a positive. So as soon as you just, I say this all the time, doubt the doubt. See, there's so much I could teach. It's ridiculous. Faith, Gail, and doubt, Brody, both take the same thing. I'm going to say that again. Faith in something and doubt in something both require the same thing, belief. Faith is nothing but a belief in an outcome that I want. Doubt is nothing but a strongly held belief in an outcome that I don't even want. So, for example, if you were to say, okay, I want to start a business, and faith says, okay, cool, you start that business, you're going to get customers, people are going to, you're going to start that new restaurant in Tampa, right, on Market Street, right? Faith says this is going to be one of the best restaurants in Tampa, we're going to kill it, it's going to be packed. Doubt says, oh, there's so many restaurants already in Tampa, we're probably not going to have enough customers and we might close. Either outcome is a belief that you made up in your mind.
Yes.
So if I believe that I'm good, so when I came into this industry, I said, I want to be one of the best to do this. And that was my belief. And I surrounded myself with mentors and coaches who believed and saw the best in me. And I paid the money to go to the seminars, to go to the retreats, to go to the masterminds, to get the private coaching. I remember paying Zig Ziglar's speechwriter $10,000 for 2 days so she could teach me how to lay out speeches and presentations. So today when people send me messages on Instagram saying, hey, can you teach me how to write a speech? I'm like, you got to come to a retreat to learn how to do that. I'm not going to teach you that in an inbox.
Right. You've got to invest in yourself.
You've got to invest in yourself. I've made millions of dollars in this industry, but I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn how to do that. And so I think we have to be willing to make those investments in ourselves and in our dream in order to make it happen. But you got to ask yourself, what am I believing? Am I believing in my success or am I believing in my failure? I coach authors. I've written 8 books. And I coach authors. And when authors say, I've got writer's block, Brody, I said, no, you don't. You have a belief issue. And they're like, well, Dr. Delatorro, what do you mean by that? I said, if you had a guarantee that 10,000 people were going to buy this book the first week it came out, I guarantee you'd write that book in a weekend. But the reason why you stall is because you don't believe that what you're writing is going to sell. Ooh.
Yeah. It comes down to
belief.
The belief.
Right.
Any outcome that you teach yourself about a future state, you made it up in your head. So the person that says my restaurant's going to be successful made that up. The person that says my restaurant's not going to be successful made that up too. The person that says my relationship is going to be sexy, exciting, adventurous, and it's going to be legacy building and we're going to have generational wealth, you made that up in your head. The person that says, oh, well, whoever I'm going to get with is just going to be movies and dinner and Chinese food and they're probably going to cheat on me and you made that outcome up too. So you get to live whatever outcome you make up.
Brody, what do you think about that?
I think I totally agree with that, right? That self-limiting belief.
Bro, dude.
Because you tend to perform to what you think you can perform to.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Brian Tracy took it a step further. You won't earn, he says, you can't out-earn your own self-concept. I'm going to say it slower. You cannot out-earn your own self-concept. In other words, what Brian Tracy, who wrote The Forward to Shift into a Higher Gear, what he teaches is that you have to constantly be graduating your belief in yourself so that way your income can rise to meet that level of belief. You said something earlier, Gail. You said every time I turn around, you're doing something different and new, and you're always up-leveling. That's because every year I'm challenging myself to better my best. They asked James Brown in an interview, they said, out of all the concerts you've done all around the world, which one was your best? He said, the one I'm going to do tomorrow night.
Nice.
That's belief right
there.
there.
You go, right.
Yeah.
He believed that his next was his best. And the more we embrace this notion that my best is my next, the more we can live our dreams and the more we can have the career that we want, the family that we want, the lifestyle that we want. I mean, think about it. I've asked you questions about you. Like, my husband plans the most amazing vacations and family trips that we take, right?
He does.
Exactly, right? And why? Because at the end of the day, he sees it in his mind and he goes right into execution and planning. And so that outcome is an outcome that he made up in his head.
Yeah.
So we get to live the life that we decide we deserve. So, and if you don't feel like I'm worthy of this, then I would encourage you to do several things. Number one, find a really good therapist, because 9 times out of 10, the reason why we don't feel like we're worthy is because of things that have happened in our past. Disappointments, hardships, failures. Most of us are so hard on ourselves because life hasn't worked out the way that we wanted, the way that we expected, the way we had mapped it out. So when life doesn't work out the way we had planned or expected, what we tend to do is we say, oh, well, it's always going to be that way because that's the way it was in the past. Or maybe a childhood trauma kind of put in your head that you didn't deserve anything more. Maybe you were taken advantage of. Maybe you were manipulated. Maybe you were abused. I've seen all of it. And so that's why I believe in the importance of therapy. I believe in the importance of mental health. I've had a therapist in my life for over 10 years. And what has helped me to continue to shift and level up is constantly talking to somebody to help me through things. And I didn't go through necessarily physical abuse as a child, but my childhood wasn't the easiest. I grew up with a stepfather who was physically abusive to my mom. So I watched domestic violence happen in my household. You know, my parents divorced when I was 2. Me and my dad are best friends. He's amazing. He's an incredible dude. You know, so my mom passed away 10 years ago. So when my mom passed, I went through therapy to overcome grief, right? As a single father, you know, making sure that you're doing the right thing for your kids. So my point is, for any of us who don't feel like we're worthy enough or good enough or we could succeed at a higher level, that's what mental health counseling is all about. And I think when we can go back into yesterday, yesterweek, yestermonth, yesteryear, and heal those previous versions of ourselves, then we can step into today and say, I own this because I'm better now. And I talked about this in the book. We have to shift from life happened to me, which makes me the victim, to life happened for me, which makes me the victor. One of the things that I teach, Gail, is I've studied a lot of what's called neuro-linguistic programming, which is the study of the language of the unconscious mind. And when you study NLP, and I teach NLP to my students, so I train speakers, authors, and coaches, and I help them get a start into the professional speaking industry. I've trained over 500 speakers, authors, and coaches and influencers. I have a program called Crush the Stage. It's a 4-day like speaker training presentation skills course, right? People can learn about that by going to crushthestage.com. But when I teach that program, I teach NLP. And when I teach neuro-linguistic programming, I teach people that the unconscious mind cannot process a negative directly. So if I say, Gail, don't think of a pink elephant in the corner of a room, it's the first thing you think about, right? Right? If I say, don't slip and fall, most people slip and fall. Why? Because if I say, don't lie to me, or if you tell the kid, don't spill the juice, what happens?
They spill the juice. That one I know.
If they say, don't play in the street, what happens? They're in the street the whole time because the unconscious mind cannot process the not, the don't, or the can't. So what we have to learn how to do is speak in the affirmative of the things that we want. So instead of saying, don't spill the juice, what you say to the kid is, hold it with both hands, right? Instead of saying, don't play in the street, say, keep the ball in the yard. Instead of saying, don't lie to me, to the person you're arguing with, say, tell me the truth. I'll reward your honesty. Does that make sense? The more we can learn to speak in the affirmative, the unconscious mind hears the command, it hears the suggestion, and it allows us to be able to move forward powerfully. So we have to understand the power that we have to really shift our mindset by not just shifting our conscious mind, but by shifting our unconscious mind. Does that make sense?
It does, 100%.
And so one of the biggest things that I've learned in NLP also is the difference between being at cause and being at effect. When you say this happened to me, I get to be the victim and I get to be at the effect of some outside cause, right? But the moment you say this happened for me, the divorce, the bankruptcy, the layoff, the business partner that stole the money, in the moment, it doesn't feel good. It hurts. But as you heal from the hurt, it shifts and you say, man, my business is actually better because of that person leaving, because the exodus of the wrong person being in my business created a vacuum for the entrance of the right person to be in my business.
Yes.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah, it's so true. You're so right. I mean, I think so many people get caught up in the bitterness and the
Yeah,
anger
yeah.
and the darkness
Yeah.
that it really takes over their body, and
does.
they're only doing themselves a disservice. I love your stance on getting out of the victim mentality
Yeah.
and realizing this is just opening the doors for
Yeah.
something much better.
Exactly. I mean, Gail, you saw me walk through that earlier this year, right? I was in a relationship with a young lady, and there were some traumas that she was having. And before we were to step into marriage, I said, I want you to go to therapy to get those traumas dealt with. She didn't want to deal with that. So she said, okay, hey, I'm out. And it was devastating for me and for my daughters, but she had to make that choice for herself. But the exodus of the wrong person creates a vacuum for the right person to come in. And so I had a choice. I said, okay, am I going to sit here and wallow in the fact that, I had a breakup, or am I going to stand up and continue to move forward and be the amazing guy that I know I am? And that's going to create the entrance for the amazing woman that I'm supposed to be with, right? And so had I called Elizabeth and said, okay, I don't want to be on the show for 6 months because I want to wallow in the sulk of all this stuff. Now I'm a victim because it happened to me. But as soon as I said, you know what, that breakup happened for me, I could be there next week. One shift, to me versus for me, and I showed up in studio a week later.
A shift. Brody, it all comes back to the shift. And I just want to remind our viewers and our listeners about this brilliant man. He's got many books, but Shift into a Higher Gear, Better Your Best, and Live Life to the Fullest is the one that we're talking about. Dr. Delatorro McNeal.
Wall Street Journal, USA Today, bestseller, baby.
You're brilliant. You're brilliant. Please don't send me a bill for this coaching.
No.
I'm just kidding. But I do. One of these days, I'm going to be a paying customer in one of your retreats because I just want to get more of you like we all should. Thank you.
Thank you. An
My
honor
friend,
indeed. Yes,
it is
ma'am.
such a pleasure to have you, not just on Bloom, but now an official member of Bloom Health Club.
Bloom Health Club in the building. This is
are.
incredible. You guys are phenomenal. Brody, great job as well, man. This is amazing.
Thank you. It's great meeting you.
You as well, friend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.